Hello, my 7th grade scholars. Welcome to this lesson on diagramming complex sentences with an adverb clause. We already went over complex sentences with an adjective clause. Now we're looking at adverb clauses. So basically, it's the same kind of thing, diagrammed a little bit differently, but instead of the clause acting like an adjective, it acts like an adverb. So remember, a complex sentence will have an independent clause and at least one dependent clause or subordinate clause. And all clauses will have a subject and a predicate, or subject and verb. And there are three types of dependent or subordinate clauses. We've already gone over adjective clauses. Now we're going over adverb clauses. The other one is noun, and we probably won't cover that this year. Go 8th grade. So adverb clauses. So a couple things to know. The adverb clause is a subordinate clause. It's a dependent clause, and it functions as an adverb. And then this clause can either be at the beginning or the end of a sentence, so watch out for that. But you'll have these little trigger words, which are subordinating conjunctions, and all of these words will help you know that the adverb clause is going to be right after, or it'll be part of the adverb clause. So let's review what adverbs are. So adverbs answer the questions how, where, when, how often, and to what extent. We have that all written here. How, where, when, how often, and to what extent. And adverbs modify verbs, adjectives, or another adverb. Those are the only things that they can modify. So when you're looking at these clauses, you know that it's still going to act like an adverb, and so all those rules still apply. So the adverbs can only modify verbs, adjectives, or another adverb. So they will modify one of those things in the independent clause. So subordinating conjunctions introduce adverb clauses. Here are a bunch of them. There are some more, but here's a really good list. Before, than, when, while. Those are some I really like. Wink, wink. Those are some great subordinating conjunctions. So we're going to look at some sentences and see how they're diagrammed. It's a little bit different from adjective clauses in the way we diagram it. So let's look at the first sentence down here. I'm just going to show you the whole diagram, and you'll kind of get a quick little look at that. So here's the hint right here. Diagram practice hint. Use the dotted line to join the verb of the adverb clause. So this is our adverb clause, and then you're going to use the dotted line to join this adverb clause to the word that it modifies. And on that line, you'll write the subordinating conjunction. Okay, so Tiffany saw her uncle when she delivered the newspaper. So we have our subject, Tiffany. What'd she do? She saw. There's our verb. Cool. Tiffany saw her uncle. This right here is our independent clause. Then we see the word when. Oh, wait a second. Here it is, the subordinating conjunction. When she delivered the newspaper. So here is our subordinating clause, or our dependent clause. So this gives us our little hint to where it starts. So we would diagram this as usual. Tiffany, subject, saw, verb, and then uncle is the direct object, and whose uncle? Her uncle. There's our adjective. Now here I would skip the subordinating conjunction just for a minute and diagram she delivered the newspaper. So we have our subject, okay, and our verb, delivered. So she delivered, and delivered what? Direct object, newspaper, which one? The. So these are things we already know. The tricky part is how do you connect when to the independent clause? So what you're looking at is you find the verb in the subordinating clause, or the dependent clause. So you find that verb and you connect the dot to whatever it's modifying. Saw what? So Tiffany saw her uncle. When did she see her uncle? That's what I was looking for. When did she see her uncle? So here is the verb. This is actually telling us that the adverb is answering the question when, this adverb clause. So she delivered the newspaper. When she delivered the newspaper is when she saw her uncle. So you take this verb and you connect it back to this particular verb. So the adverb clause that begins with the subordinating conjunction when modifies the verb saw in the independent clause. Let's look at another example. Before Ricky arrived, we ate dinner. We're looking for those subject-verb pairs, remember? So Ricky arrived, subject-verb. We ate, subject-verb. So we ate dinner. So remember, the adverb clause can be at the beginning of the sentence, and that's what we have going on here. The adverb clause is at the beginning of the sentence. So we ate dinner. Here's our independent clause. We ate dinner. When did we eat dinner? Before Ricky arrived. So we get our subject and our verb over here, Ricky arrived, and then our verb from the subordinate clause or the dependent clause will connect back to the word that it's modifying, which is ate. When did we eat? Before Ricky arrived. So you're connecting that back. Don't forget the capital on this because it's at the beginning of the sentence. So this is going to be our subordinating conjunction on this dotted line. So the adverb clause that begins with the subordinating conjunction before, right here, modifies the verb ate in the independent clause. So I'll give you some instruction or an explanation at the bottom here. Brad is taller than we expected. Okay, so Brad, here's our subject, here's our verb, and then we, subject, expected, verb. So we have our subject-verb pairs. So Brad is taller, and then, look over here, we've got than on our subordinating conjunction list. Brad is taller than we expected. You take the verb in that subordinate clause or the dependent clause and connect it back to what it's modifying. In this case, it's not modifying the verb in the independent clause. It's modifying taller than what? Than we expected to, or to what extent? That's the adverb question it's answering. So expected, taller than we expected. So the adverb clause that begins with the coordinating conjunction, that's wrong. That should say subordinating conjunction. That should say subordinating. I'll see if I can correct that. Maybe not because I scanned it already. Subordinating conjunction than modifies the predicate adjective. So here we have the predicate adjective. So how much taller or to what extent taller is Brad? Well, taller than we expected. So it's answering that question, to what extent. So it's modifying taller. Last example for today. My sister can swim faster than my brother can. This looks tricky, but let's just break down the rules. My sister can swim faster than my brother can. So what's our subject-verb pairs? We have sister, can, swim. Okay, we've got a verb phrase here. Don't get tricked by that. Then the next pair would be brother. Here's our subject. And then brother can. There's our verb. Cool. So we know sister can swim faster. How can she swim faster? This is an adverb. How is she swimming? How can she swim? Because remember, adverbs modify verbs, adjectives, or another adverb. So it's modifying this adverb. So whose sister? My sister. She can swim faster. So this is our independent clause. And then we have our dependent clause or subordinating or subordinate clause connected by this. Than is a subordinating conjunction. So brother can, we have our subject and we have our verb. Whose brother? My brother. Now we look at this verb in the subordinate clause or the dependent clause. Look at the verb. What is the verb? What is that phrase or that clause modifying? My brother can do what? Swim faster, right? So can is modifying the adverb in the independent clause. So the adverb clause that begins with the subordinating conjunction than modifies the adverb faster in the independent clause. So stuff you might know already, you're just applying it in a little bit of a different way. So get familiar with the subordinating conjunctions here. Again, there are 4 that I really like. We'll come back and do a little bit of a practice with this. You guys are awesome.